This is Street Connect, a project that I started to bring more purpose and connection into New York City life. And I do that by having conversations with strangers.
What's a book that you've read that's really impacted you? And or what book are you reading right now?
Okay. I recently fell back in love with reading.
Okay, me too.
And I did so by reading fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I think I used to read a lot of like biographies, like Christian literature, or like that type of like help positivity.
Yeah.
But I was exploring like writing, and I was like, well, to expand myself as a writer, maybe I should read more fiction. And I read like the Hunger Games series and like Life of Pi. And currently, I'm reading Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes, heard of it.
Can you tell me about your deepest pain?
My deepest pain? Let's see. I guess I'm kind of hoping that I'm a bit over that hump at this point. I had a really challenging time towards junior and senior year of high school. I had an eating disorder, which was really severe, and ended up landing me in the hospital, and then in and out of inpatient treatments for that for about 4 or 5 years. The root of that pain, trying to figure that out in therapy. It's something that reveals itself over time, but I think my deepest pain originates from something that leads to this self-hatred, this self-loathing, this feeling of not being enough, that kind of reveals itself through whatever actions I take in this attempt to control. And I think I mediate that by being a giver. I mean, I study human rights, and what I do is like I just give as much as I can, and it's obviously a double-edged sword, right? And I'm sure you know that too. I mean, you're making a web series about interviewing strangers. That involves a lot of emotional sharing and affective sharing. And it's really a give and a take about, well, how do I set these boundaries? How do I give as much as I can, but also realize sometimes I gotta take a step back.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that was it. It was really a physical manifestation of something that wasn't physical at all.
You said some really like powerful stuff. One that like touching on the physical manifestation of something that's not physical at all is like so real. Like I can feel that. You know what I mean? I think that is something that is present with so many of us. You know what I mean? That people have like actions or reactions that have nothing to do with what's actually taking place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then this feeling of like not being enough or like never having enough is something that I feel like is just a common thread that runs through all of us.
It does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to like combat to like, even when you feel like you're stretched thin, you can do no more. It's still like, but it's not enough. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny because all of us feel it, but none of us talk about it or think that we feel it. So we just keep going, right? It's this endless cycle of everyone's feeling the same way, but I think society is also structured to limit intimacy in a way that's like socially sanctioned.
Yeah.
The idea of intimacy and friendship and platonic intimacy or intimacy with strangers, like that's something we don't think about. It's almost taboo.
Yeah.
So what you're doing to really challenge that, I think, is incredible, because this is exactly what we need, right? We need to be able to go up to someone and say like, "Hi, this is my name. How are you? Like, tell me something about yourself."
Break down the walls and realize how like connected we all are. You
We
know what
are,
I mean?
yeah.
How like we can see people's brokenness and kind of like try to respect their space rather than kind of like pushing into their space a little bit. You know what I mean? And welcoming them into like connectivity and like being seen rather than it being like ignored or like you said, taboo, acting like it's not something we feel too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's also a balance too, though, because I think one thing I've learned is that in order to get past something, you have to be able to sit in negative emotions. And a lot of our coping mechanisms
Is
that
getting
we
out of
do
that.
is to try not to sit in it. And so we're stuck because we're like, oh, I'm just gonna go like buy something online,
Right.
retail therapy. I'll feel so much better. Or like I'm gonna go drink, I'm gonna go party. Like all of these coping mechanisms that everyone has, and they're different for everybody.
Yeah.
But it is to try to not feel what we don't want to feel.
Yeah.
So the question is, what can you learn when you take the time to just sit in that and say, okay, like what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? And how can I kind of directly challenge that?
Yeah. Those are like, that's a nice way to unpack those things.
Yeah, I've had a lot of practice. Therapy's great. All here for therapy.
Exactly.